Well, welcome back to RamZland. I'm so glad that you could join us for today's math lesson. We're hoping to review in this lesson how to find the volume of a cone. If you remember recently, we talked about finding the volume of a sphere. That formula was 4/3 pi r cubed. We talked about finding the volume of a cylinder, which is base times height, or pi r squared times the height. This is similar to that. A cone, turns out, is exactly 1/3 the volume of a cylinder. And so just in the same way that you would have base times height, now for a cone, you're doing pi r squared times 1/3, because the volume of a cone is 1/3 that of a cylinder. So I'd like to look at some examples with you. This first example here for volume of cone talks about the formula, and you can see right here, volume equals 1/3 times the base, which is pi r squared, because the base is a circle, times the height. So in this case, you can see the base of the cone has a diameter of 4. Remember, for area of a circle, we want the radius. We want pi times the radius squared. So in this one, the radius would be half the diameter, which would be 2. Radius is going to be 2. So you have 3.14 times 2 times 2. And then you're going to multiply that times the height. And then you're going to multiply that times 1/3. Okay? So you can see that right here. Here's pi times 2 times 2 times 6 times 1/3. So let's look at some examples together down here where it works that out. Okay, so here's my radius is 6 for number 1. So I would have 6 times 6, that's 6 squared, which is 36, times pi, times the height. Here's the height is 15, times 1/3, because a cone is 1/3 the volume of a cylinder, times 1/3. So let's work that out. Here's 6 times 6 is 36 times 3.14, or times pi. So 36 times 3.14 is going to equal 113.04. Now we have to multiply it times the height. So here's step 2. This is kind of step 1. Here's step 2. 113.04 times 15. And that's going to equal 1,695.6. Okay, there's one more step. We have to multiply it by 1/3, or you could just divide it by 3, which is the same thing. So here's step 3. I'd have 1695.6 divided by 3, and that's going to give us our volume, which is going to equal 565. This is round to the nearest tenth, so I'm going to say 0.2. This is volume, so I'd say cubic centimeters for this question. Okay? Let's look at number 2. It says, here's your volume. Well, actually, they solved that for you. They're asking for the height. Let's go down here and look at some more cones together as that loads. And, okay, here we go. All right, so they're giving you a diameter of 6. I want the radius, which is going to be half of that. It's just going to be 3. Okay. Over here they give you the radius is 2. So let's look at number 4 here. So I'm going to have pi r squared, which is 2 times 2 times pi. Okay. Then times the height times 4, and then times 1/3, or divided by 3. So I have 4 times pi. So I have 3.14 times 4 is 1256, 12.56. Now I'm going to multiply that times the height. So I have 1256 times 4. That's going to be equal 50.24. Last step is times 1/3 or divided by 3. So I'm going to have 50.24 divided by 3, and that's going to equal my volume, which is to the nearest, we're rounding this to the nearest tenth. I got 16.74, so I'm going to round that to 16.7. 16.7 cubic inches is my volume for that cone. Okay, let's look at number 5 here. Again, my radius is 3 and my height is 3. So I'm going to have 3 times pi times the height, which is 3 times 1/3. So I know 3 times 3 is 9. 9 times pi is 28.26 times 3 for the height is 84.78. Divided by 3 is going to equal a volume of 28.26 cubic meters for that cone. Let's look at number 6 together. So step 1 is radius squared times pi. So I have 5 squared times pi. So 25 times 3.14 is 78.5. Okay, this is step 1. Step 2, multiply that by the height. There's 78.5, the height is 10. So remember, when you multiply by multiples of 10, you just move the decimal according to how many zeros there are. So there's 1 0 in 10, so I'm moving the decimal 1 step. So that's just going to equal 785. And then step 3 is to multiply that by 1/3 or divide it by 3. I think it's easier just to divide it by 3. Here's 785 divided by 3, and that's going to equal our volume, which is 261.66. We'd round that up to 0.7. So 261.7, and I would label this, since it's volume, cubic millimeters. So here's millimeters to the 3rd power. And that's our volume for that cone. Okay, let's look at 7, 8, and 9. Okay, so for 7, your radius is 1. That kind of makes it easy. 1 times 1 is 1 times pi is 3.14. So for this one, we can just go straight to 3.14 times the height. So pi times 2 is just 6.28. And I have to multiply that by 1/3 or divide it by 3. So I'm going to divide that by 3, and I'm going to get 2.09, or I'll just round that up to 2.1 cubic feet for that cone. Here's number 8. Notice number 8 has got the same radius that we had over here. So we knew 5 times 5 is 25 times pi is 78.5. So I'm just going to do that here. I'm just going to say 5 squared times pi is 78.5. That's step 1. Step 2, multiply that by the height, base times height. So I have 78.5 times 8. Let's figure out what that is. It's going to be 628. That's step 2. Okay, and then step 3, divide that by 3. So 628 divided by 3 is going to be 209.3. And this is cubic centimeters. Okay, Zakia, it sounded like you had a question. What's your question, dear?
It was an accident. It kicked me off, and I was telling my mom it wasn't working, so I had to get back on.
I'm glad to have you. Good to hear you. Okay, let's look at number 9. So here we have our diameter of 7. Remember, you don't want that for the base. You want the radius when you're looking at a circle. So I want half of 7. So I know half of 7 is going to be 3.5. Okay, so I have 3.5 squared, because it's pi r squared for a circle, times 3.14. So let's figure out what that is. 3.5 times 3.5 is 12.25 times pi, 3.14. Okay, so for the base, I got 38.46. And now we're going to multiply that times the height. That's step 2. So here's 38.46 times 9. Let's see what that is. I got 346.18. So let's round that up to 0.2. Okay, and then the third step is just divide that by 3. 346.2 divided by 3 is going to equal a volume of 115.6 0.39, let's round that up to 0.4 cubic yards for that cone. Okay, let's take a look at 10, 11, and 12. And again, I'm going to write the formula over here. It's pi r squared times the height times 1/3, or divided by 3. Okay, take a couple minutes. Make sure you've got a calculator, some scratch paper, and try to figure out 10, 11, and 12. If you have any questions, just let me know. Okay, hopefully that gave you a chance to try 10, 11, and 12. Let's look at 10 together. So my radius is 4. So I'm going to have 4 squared times pi. So I know 4 times 4 is 16. I know 16 times 3.14 is 50.24. That's step 1. 50.24. Okay. Step 2 is to multiply that. That's the base, the area of the base, times the height. So 50.24 times 7. And I got 351.68. Let's round that up to 0.7. So 351.7. And I'm going to divide that by 3. 351.7 divided by 3, which is the same as multiplying it by 1/3. And I got a volume of 117.2 cubic feet for number 10. Let's look at number 11. So it looks to me like this line is the diameter. It's going all the way across. So we want half of that. We want the radius. So half of 5 would be 2.5. So step 1 is 2.5 squared times pi. 2.5 times 2.5 times 3.14. Got 19.625 for the base. Step 2 is multiply that by the height, which is 10. So 19.625 times 10. I'm just going to move the decimal one space to 196.25. And then the last step is divide that by 3 because a cone is 1/3 the volume of a cylinder. And a cylinder is just pi r squared times the height, well, for a right cylinder. So 196.25 divided by 3 is my volume, which looks like 6. Hang on for a second. 196.25 by 3, which is 65.4 cubic inches for number 11. Okay, for number 12, again, they're giving you the diameter. You just want the radius, which would be 2. So step 1 is radius squared, which is still 4, times pi. So we know 4 times 3.14 is 12.56. Step 2 is multiply the base by the height, 1256 times 8. And it looks like that should be 100.48. And then step 3, is divided by 3. 100.48 divided by 3 for our total volume. I got 33.49. Let's round that up to 0.5. 33.5 cubic centimeters for number 12. Okay, let's come over here and look at a few more examples. I'm going to do number 1 with you, and I'm going to let you have a minute to look at number 2 and number 3. So number 1 is giving us exactly what we want. We want the radius. Notice number 2 is giving you the diameter. You want half of that. So the first step for number 1 for volume of a cone is pi r squared till 5. Let me get my pen working here. There we go. Okay. So we have 5 squared times pi. That's the area of the base. Okay. So 25 times 3.14 is 78.5. Okay. Step 2 is take the area of the base times the height, which for number 1 is 12. So 78.5 times 12. I got 942. Step 3 is multiply that by 1/3 or divide it by 3. So we could just do 942 divided by 3 to get our total volume, which is 314 cubic centimeters for that first one. Okay. Take a minute, look at number 2 and 3. Be careful of your radius for number 2. It's half of 14. If you have any questions, let me know. Okay, I think that should be enough time for 2 and 3. Let's take a look at what our radius would be for a diameter of 14. Half of 14 should be a radius of 7. So step 1 is pi r squared. So I have 7 squared times pi. So 7 times 7 is 49 times 3.14 is 153.86. That's step 1 for volume of a cone. Step 2 is to multiply the base by the height. So 153.86 times a height of 18. And that should equal 2,769.48. Step 3 is to divide that by 3. So 2,769.48 divided by 3 is going to equal our volume of 923.16 cubic feet. Let's take a look at number 3. I hope you had time to do that. pi r squared would be 3 times 3 times 3.14. So 3 times 3 is 9. Times pi is 28.26. Step 2 is multiply that by a height of 7. So 28.26 times 7 should equal 197.82. And then step 3 is to take 197.82 and divide that by 3, which would give you a volume of 65.94 cubic meters. Okay, let's scroll down and take a look at a few more together. I'll do number 4 with you and then give you a chance to do 5 and 6. So number 4 gives you a diameter of 8. We want half of that for the radius. So half of 8 is 4. So step 1 is 4 squared, radius squared, times pi. 16 times 3.14 is 50.24. That's my base, area of my base. Step 2 is the base times the height. The height is 9. And that's going to equal 452.16. Okay, and then step 3 is to divide that, 452.16 divided by 3. And that's going to equal a volume of 150.72 cubic inches. Okay, take a minute, try number 5 and 6 on your own. If you have any questions, let me know.
Mr. Ramsey?
Yeah, Zakia.
Is the radius of 6 2 or 3?
Radius would be half of the... Are you looking at number 5?
No, number 6. Is it 2 or 3?
It's 3. Yeah,
okay.
That's 3. That is kind of hard to read, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah. Okay, let's take a look at number 5 there. So radius squared would be 6 to the second power. That's 36 times pi for the area of the base. So 36 times 3.14 should be 113.04. That's your first step. Then you want to multiply that area of the base times the height, which looks like it's 14. So 113.04 times 14. I got 1,582.56. And then the last step is to divide that by 3. So 158256 divided by 3 is going to give us a volume of 527.52 cubic meters for number 5. Okay, let's look at number 6. I think this is a radius of 3. So we'd have 3 to the second power times pi. So 9 times 3.14 is 28.26. That's the first step. Second step, multiply that by the height, which looks like it's 5. For 141.3. And then the last step, just take 141.3 divided by 3 for a volume of 47.1 cubic centimeters. And if those are the answers that you got for those last two, you're on the right track. You know what you're doing. Let's take a look at number 7 together. So my radius is 7. So 7 to the second power is 49 times pi should equal 153.86. I'm going to multiply that by the height. So 153.86 times a height of 12 is going to equal 1,846.32. And then I want to divide that by 3, which is going to equal a volume of 615.44 cubic feet. Okay, just take a minute, look at number 8 and number 9. Be careful of your radius for number 8 because they're giving you the diameter. So you want half of 6 for that one. If you have any questions, let me know. Okay, let's look at number 8 together. So if my diameter is 6, my radius is half of that, 3. So pi r squared means 3 to the second power times 3.14. So 9 times 3.14 is going to be 28.26. Then I want to multiply the area of the base of my cone by its height. So 28.26 times 9 should equal 254.34. And then I want to divide that by 3 to find my volume. So divided by 3 should equal 84.78 cubic inches. Let's look at number 9. Hopefully I had a chance to get there. So my radius is 8. So the base is 8 squared times pi. So 8 times 8 is 64 times pi is going to equal 200.96. Step 2 is take the area of the base times the height, so 200.96 times 18 is going to equal 3,617.28. Step 3 is to divide that by 3 to get your volume, which should be 1,205.76 cubic meters. Okay, let's look at a few more examples here. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger because it looks kind of hard to read. Okay. All right, find the answers rounded to the nearest whole for the volume. So if for number 1, I have a diameter of 16, that would mean that the radius should be half of that. So I know half of 16 is going to be a radius of 8. So make this a little bit smaller. That's better. Okay, so I'm going to have 8 to the second power times pi. So 64 times pi is going to equal 296. And then I'll multiply the base of my cone, the area of the base, times the height. So 200.96 times 16 is going to equal 3,215.36. And then I want to divide that by 3 to get the volume, which is 1,071.7. Let's round that up to 1,072. 1,072 cubic meters for number 1. Let's look at number 2. So my radius is 100. So radius is 10. So 10 squared is 100 times pi. So pi is 3.14. I'm just going to move that decimal 2 spaces, and that's going to equal 314. I'm going to multiply that by the height of 20. So 314 times 20 is going to equal 6,280. And then I want to divide that by 3 to get my volume, which is 2,093.3. So we'll just leave it at 2,093. 2,093 cubic feet is my volume for number 2. Okay, let's take a look at 3 and 4. So here's my radius of 3. So first step is radius squared times pi. So 3 times 3 is 9. 9 times 3.14 is 28.26. I want to take the area of my base and multiply it by the height. That's my second step, times 10. So I'm just going to move that decimal place 1 step to the right because I'm multiplying by 10. So now I have 282.6. And I want to divide that by 3 because the volume of a cone is 1/3 the volume of a cylinder, which gives us a volume, see here, 282.6 divided by, gives us a volume of 94.2, and we would round that just to 94 cubic meters for number 3. Let's look at number 4. Again, it looks like they're giving you the diameter. I see this line goes all the way across. We want just half of that. So I think half of 2 would give us a radius of 1. Radius is half of that. So your first step would be 1 squared. That just means 1 times 1 times pi, which is simply going to equal 3.14. Step 2 is 3.14 times the height times 2, which is 6.28. And then the last step is to divide that by 3, which is 2.09. Let's just round that to 2. Let's say 2 cubic feet for number 4. Okay, let's take a minute and give you a chance to work out questions 5 and 6. Be careful on number 6 because they're giving you the diameter. You want half of that. And if you have any questions, let me know. Okay, let's look at number 5 together. So your radius is 7. So step 1 is pi r squared. So 7 squared times pi. 49 times 3.14 should equal 153.86. And then multiply that. Step 2 is multiply that by the height. The height looks like it's 14. And I got 2,154.04. Step 3 is divide that by 3. Gives you a volume of 718.01. Let's just round that to 718. 718 cubic centimeters should be your volume for number 5. Here's number 6. Again, they gave you the diameter. You want the radius. So half of 4 should be a radius of 2. So we're going to do pi r squared, 2 squared times pi. 2 times 2 is 4, times pi should be 12.56. And step 2 is multiply that times the height, 1256 times 6. This can equal 75.36. Step 3 is divide that by 3. And your volume should be 25.12. Let's just round that to 25 cubic inches for number 6. Okay, take a look at number 7 and 8. Looks like 7 is giving you a diameter of 2. You want half of that, okay? Try to figure out the volume for 7 and 8. If you have any questions, let me know. Okay, we're hoping you had a chance to look at number 7 and 8. So step 1 is pi r squared. So the radius for number 7 looks like it's half of 2. So it would have 1 squared times pi. 1 times 1 is 1 times 3.14 doesn't change. And then I'm going to take that area of the base times the height, which looks like it's 7. So 3.14 times 7 should be 21.98. And then your last step is to divide that by 3, which should give you a volume of 7.32. Let's just round that to 7 cubic centimeters for number 7. 7 for 7. All right, let's look at number 8. It looks like your radius is 5. So step 1 is 5 squared times pi. 25 times 3.14 should equal 78.5. Step 2 is to multiply that by the height, which is 10. So I'm just going to move my decimal one step to the right, so 785 now. Step 3 is to divide that by 3, which gives you a volume of 26.16. Let's just round that to 26 cubic miles for number 8. Okay, take a look at number 9 and 10. Be careful, they're giving you the diameter for both of these cones. You want half that for your formula. Half of 8, half of 6. If you have any questions, let me know. Okay, let's look at number 9 together. It looks like your diameter is 8, so the radius is half of that, which is 4. So I would have 4 squared times pi. So 4 times 4 is 16 times pi should equal 50.24. Step 2 is multiply that by the height, which looks like it's 9. And that's going to equal 452.16. And then step 3 is divide that by 3 for the volume, which hopefully would equal 150.72. We can round that up to 151 cubic centimeters. I'm sorry, cubic kilometers. Kilometers cubed. Here we go. All right, let's look at number 10. So you've got a diameter of 6. We want half of that for the radius, which would be 3. So my first step is pi r squared, 3 to the second power times pi. So 3 times 3 is 9. 9 times pi is 28.26. Step 2 is multiply that by the height, which is 6. And that should equal 169.56. Then the last step is divide that by 3 for the volume. I got 56.52. Let's round that up to 57. 57 cubic miles is your answer for number 10. Here's 11 and 12. It looks like 12, they're giving you the diameter. You want half of that for the radius. 11, they're giving you exactly what you need. Take a minute, look at those two questions, and if you need help, let me know.
Yeah.
Okay, let's look at number 11 together. So my radius is 9. So pi r squared means 9 times 3.14. Should be 254.34. Step 2, multiply that times the height. And the height looks like it's 18. And I got 4,578.12. Step 3 is divide that by 3 or multiply it by a third for a volume of 1,526.04. Let's just round that to 1,526 cubic kilometers for number 11. Okay, number 12, they're giving you the diameters, so you want half of that for the radius. So half of 8 give you a radius of 4, okay? So I want pi r squared for the area of the base. So 4 squared times pi. 4 times 4 is 16, times 3.14 is 50.24. Step 2 is multiply the area of the base times the height. It looks like the height is 8. So 50.24 times 8 is going to equal 401.92. Step 3 is divide that by 3 to give you your volume, which is 133.97. Let's round that up to 134 cubic yards for number 12. Okay, so in this lesson, we reviewed how to find the volume of a cone. We reviewed the formula is 1/3 pi r squared. We also compared that to a previous lesson about how to find the volume of a cylinder, which is just simply pi r squared times the height. we explained that a cone is multiplied by 1/3 or divided by 3 because a cone is exactly 1/3 the volume of a cylinder that has the same base and the same height. We also reviewed a little bit about the volume of a sphere. Remember, a sphere is 4/3 pi r cubed. So hopefully you'll come back for our next lesson, which is the same time next week, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday at 2 o'clock. Good to see all of you. I'm going to stop our recording now.